What if the biggest fight in UFC history wasn't happening in Vegas, Abu Dhabi, or Madison Square Garden, but on the White House lawn? That's not a rumor anymore. It's the reality Dana White is building. A cage sitting in front of the most powerful building on Earth, millions watching, and the entire world asking one question: how did we get here? Because suddenly, Conor McGregor, the man everyone thought was finished, is teasing a comeback so massive it barely sounds real. Cryptic training clips, weight dropping, rumors flying. And on the other side, Michael Chandler, a man who has suffered through 3 brutal years of delays, false promises, and heartbreak, still waiting for the one fight he was told would change his life. Now Dana White is pulling the trigger on his craziest, boldest idea yet. This isn't a fight, this is a global event. For years, Dana White has chased the impossible. While every other promoter stayed inside arenas, he built Fight Island during a global shutdown. While most executives dream small, Dana treats every crazy idea like a blueprint. So when whispers first surfaced about the UFC hosting an event in Washington, D.C., people assumed he was trolling another wild Dana soundbite to get headlines buzzing. But then the details started leaking, and suddenly the joke wasn't a joke at all. Lincoln Memorial Weigh-ins, a 5,000-seat private arena built directly on the White House lawn, CBS stepping in to broadcast history to the entire country for free. And just like that, the most powerful symbol in America became the backdrop for a cage fight. This isn't just a cool location, it's a statement. The UFC began in dimly lit warehouses and underground gyms. Now it's planting its flag at the center of American power. The White House isn't just a building, it's a global icon. Presidents speak there, world leaders negotiate there, and now 2 fighters are going to spill sweat and pride on that same ground. Politically, it's bold. Culturally, it's shocking. Strategically, it's genius. Dana understands that mainstream America still sees MMA as a wild, chaotic sport. But the moment the octagon sits in front of those white pillars, everything changes. It becomes historic. It becomes presidential. It becomes bigger than the sport itself. DC is preparing for streets lined with giant screens, watch parties stretching from the Capitol to the National Mall, and an entire city turning into one massive UFC celebration. This isn't just an event, it's the UFC announcing its arrival as a global cultural force. But while the stage looks pristine and patriotic, the truth is far more chaotic. Because behind this historic moment lies a storm nobody is ready for. Let's be honest, a few years ago, the idea of Conor McGregor headlining anything, let alone the biggest event in UFC history, felt impossible. His downfall wasn't a single moment, it was a slow collapse in front of the entire world. The layoffs from fighting, the scandals splashed across headlines, the broken leg that left his career hanging by a thread, the business distractions, the random political ambitions. For a while, Conor looked more like a celebrity spiraling than a fighter preparing for war. But then something shifted. The cryptic training clips started appearing. The weight began dropping. His face looked sharper, the energy different. No memes, no alcohol-fueled rants, no chaos, just a man grinding in silence. The internet exploded with theories. Had he finally decided to reclaim his career? Was he actually coming back? Even Dana White poured gasoline on the fire when he called Conor the most professional fighter alive, a sentence that made half the MMA world spit out their drinks. But this comeback feels different, and not because Conor suddenly found motivation. It's because he found something bigger, a legacy to rewrite overnight. A win on the White House lawn isn't just a win. It instantly transforms him from the guy who fell off into a global icon again. One night, one punch, one moment, and the entire narrative flips. Conor knows it. Dana knows it. The world knows it. This isn't about money. It's not about fame. It's about taking back control of his story in the most dramatic way possible. A resurrection staged on the most symbolic piece of land in America. But while the spotlight is drifting back toward McGregor, the truth is far messier. Because his return isn't the full story. While the world was busy laughing at McGregor's chaos, nobody noticed the slow-motion nightmare happening on the other side. Michael Chandler didn't just wait for a fight, he lived through 3 years of pure torment. It all began with the TUF saga where he coached opposite Conor, believing the contract was locked in. The hype was huge, the date was set, and Chandler trained like a man possessed. And then, radio silence. Pull-out after pull-out, delay after delay, half promises and shifting timelines that never became real. Still, Chandler never complained. He kept training. He pushed through injuries that should have sidelined him. He stayed in shape year-round because he believed any week could be the week McGregor finally said yes. But time is undefeated. While he sacrificed everything, his prime quietly slipped through his fingers. Then came the biggest slap in the face. Instead of the long-promised McGregor payday, Chandler was thrown into a fight with Paddy Pimblett, one of the UFC's rising marketing machines. And for the first time in his career, Chandler looked mortal. The relentless brawler, the suplex machine, the guy who pushed Justin Gaethje to the edge, suddenly he was getting outpaced, outworked, outclassed by a younger, hungrier fighter. Fans didn't just notice, they judged. Old Chandler, slower, finished. The internet turned him into a meme. Analysts quietly removed him from contender conversations. And beneath all of that, Chandler faced a truth he never admitted publicly, the doubt creeping into his own mind. The internal crisis of a warrior who aged in real time while waiting for a fight that never came. 3 years of hell. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of decline that McGregor watched closely. And that's exactly why McGregor chose him. If there's one thing Conor McGregor has always understood better than any fighter in UFC history, it's timing. He knows exactly when to strike, when to talk, when to disappear, and when to return. And right now, Chandler is hitting every checkbox Conor dreams of in a comeback opponent. This isn't the explosive, unstoppable version of Chandler who stormed into the UFC and nearly shocked Oliveira. This is Chandler 3 years older, carrying the mileage of countless wars, mentally exhausted from waiting and coming off the worst defeat of his career. The athletic edge that once terrified opponents has dulled just enough for Conor to see a doorway not wide open but cracked just enough to sneak through. And yet Chandler is still a big enough name to make headlines. He still sells. He still brings hype. He still gives Conor the appearance of taking a dangerous fight without actually taking the real danger. That's the brilliance of McGregor's strategy, high reward, lower risk. Stylistically, it's even better. Chandler loves chaos. He loves pressure. He loves marching forward into the pocket exactly where Conor's left hand is most lethal. The same instinct that made Chandler a fan favorite also makes him the perfect target for Conor's counters. But there's another angle. McGregor's team hasn't missed the leg kick storyline. In theory, Chandler could destroy Conor's reconstructed leg with one simple game plan. But mentally, after watching Chris Weidman freeze up after dealing with his own injuries after the trauma of waiting 3 years for nothing, will he really throw those kicks without hesitation? Or will that hesitation be all Conor needs? Everything about this matchup is a trap disguised as a comeback. Conor wants this Chandler, not the 2021 version, not the prime version, not the fearless version. He wants the version drowning in doubt. But the real danger isn't Chandler. While fans are obsessing over McGregor and Chandler, a completely different war is exploding behind the scenes, a power struggle that could reshape the UFC far beyond one night on the White House lawn. The moment Jon Jones publicly re-entered the USADA testing pool, the MMA world went insane. The greatest fighter of all time wanted in. He wasn't hinting. He wasn't negotiating. He flat out said he was preparing to fight at the White House. Under normal circumstances, Dana White would have handed him the main event instantly. Jones headlined more pay-per-views than almost anyone, but this time Dana shut the door so hard it echoed. For the first time ever, it felt like he wasn't just managing a fighter, he was blocking one. Why? Because the White House card isn't just a fight night, it's the opening shot of a massive business war. CBS Paramount and UFC executives are locking horns in billion-dollar negotiations that will define the next decade of the company. Too many superstars means too many egos. Too many egos means too many demands. And Dana knows the truth, you can only have one centerpiece for a historic event. So the debate began. Does McGregor get the spotlight because he's the biggest mainstream star? Does Jon Jones get it because he's the greatest talent ever? Or does Dana use this once-in-a-lifetime stage to build a new superstar, someone younger, cleaner, easier to control? Every decision here has consequences. If Jones headlines, the politics get messy. If McGregor headlines, the risk skyrockets. If a new star headlines, the financial stakes get shaky. The White House event isn't a show. It's a battleground, a fight for power, money, and control inside the UFC itself. And the pressure is crushing everyone involved. Dana White has never been afraid to push boundaries, but even Fight Island, the wild, lightning-fast infrastructure he built during a global shutdown, looks tame compared to what he's attempting now. Back then, he defied governments and every major sports league to keep the UFC alive. But this time, his ambition is way bigger than survival. He wants a global spectacle that stamps the UFC into history forever. A fight on the White House lawn isn't just a promotional stunt. It's a moonshot, something so massive, so symbolic that it could redefine how the world views mixed martial arts. It's the UFC stepping into the same cultural space as the Super Bowl or the Olympics. But the risks, they're terrifying. If a fighter pulls out at the last second, it's catastrophic. If the main event ends in a boring decision, millions will see the UFC's biggest gamble fall flat. If politics overshadow the fight, it becomes controversy instead of celebration. If the logistics go wrong from security to broadcasting, it could turn into a global embarrassment. And behind all the glitz, Dana is quietly betting the next 7 years of UFC business on this one night. This event is how he'll negotiate future TV deals, streaming rights, and partnerships. This is his argument to the world that the UFC isn't just a sport, it's an empire. Failure isn't an option. Not financially, not politically, not historically. With CBS Paramount and a global audience watching, Dana is gambling everything on the belief that the UFC has outgrown arenas and stadiums and now deserves a seat at the table of global cultural giants. But as huge as the stakes are for the UFC, they're nothing compared to what the fighters themselves are risking. Because for McGregor and Chandler, this isn't business, it's survival. Every great fight has stakes, but this is a legacy war. 2 careers standing on the edge of a cliff, and only one man is walking away with his story intact. For Conor McGregor, victory at the White House isn't just a win, it's the greatest comeback in MMA history. It turns the chaos of the last few years into a mere chapter, not the ending. One punch, one highlight, and he instantly transforms from washed former star to a legend reborn, the face of the UFC again. The king returns. But if he loses, it's over. There's no more hype, no more comebacks, no more one more run. A loss on the biggest stage in the world would seal his era shut forever. The mystique evaporates, the aura dies. The global icon becomes a nostalgia act. For Michael Chandler, the stakes are just as brutal. A win would be the validation he's chased his entire career. The ex-Bellator champ, the underdog, the workhorse, the guy who clawed his way into the UFC at 34, finally proving he belonged among the elite. Beating McGregor at the White House would be bigger than winning a title. It becomes his defining moment forever. But a loss? It's not just another L, it's a career ender. Chandler knows that if he loses this fight, he risks becoming exactly what fighters fear most: a gatekeeper. The guy prospects fight on their way up. The guy fans respect, but no longer fear. Retirement whispers will get louder. Legacy questions will sting deeper. Emotionally, financially, historically, this fight is everything. It's not punch for punch, it's identity versus identity, narrative versus narrative, ego versus ego. And the truth no one wants to admit: this matchup will be decided long before the cage door closes. It's a mental war, and only one man will survive it. And all of this may be just the beginning. The White House fight isn't just a one-night spectacle. It's the first domino in Dana White's grand plan to redefine combat sports forever. Behind closed doors, executives are already whispering about future events at global landmarks. Imagine an octagon under the Eiffel Tower, a title fight inside the ancient arches of the Colosseum, a supercard stretching across the Great Wall of China. As insane as it sounds, so did Fight Island, until it wasn't. And now there's talk of UFC x boxing crossover megacards, a merging of worlds that could pull in audiences far beyond MMA fans. Celebrities, politicians, world leaders all orbiting around events that feel more like global festivals than fight nights. The White House lawn is just the beginning, a test, a statement, a line drawn in history saying the UFC no longer belongs to arenas, it belongs to the world. But for all the talk of global expansion and billion-dollar visions, everything still comes down to 2 men stepping into a cage. 2 careers, 2 legacies, 1 moment. So now the real question: is this the comeback of a legend, or the night McGregor's empire finally collapses? The world will decide.